What's up, everybody? Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, and today marks the first of a new series I'm starting. You know those card of the day that I always put up and do a little short of, and then you never hear from those cards again or anything more in depth? Well, I thought that was a little silly, so I'm going to start a weekly series where I go through the cards that I did for card of the day for the week, and then kind of break them down as to why you should play them or give them a chance, some pros and cons to them, and of course their prices. So, without further ado, let's get into Card of the Day Weekly Roundup, Episode 1. But first, if you like what I'm doing, if you think I'm doing a good job, and only if you think I'm doing a good job, feel free to subscribe. You don't have to. So, first, we have Sundays, which is Excommunicate. Excommunicate is a 3-cost sorcery that just says put target creature on top of its owner's library. Now, this is probably one of the lowest utility ones on this week's card of the day. These are cards that I find in my bulk, cards that I find when I'm doing research for decks on Scryfall, etc. And Excommunicate is very niche, right? Think of like cards like Oblation and things like that put cards on top of or bottom. However, time walking your opponent is pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, I've done that with some other cards like it. And if you're looking for something that's a really budget option to do something like this, yes, it's a sorcery and costs 3, but it's still kind of funny putting somebody's big tyrant of a commander on top of their library and making them have to, draw it again, replay it again. Comes in at 12 cents. Very, very cheap, very affordable. Has some cool art on it, too. Number 2, we have ourselves the One Ring. So, we all know what the One Ring does, right? So, it is an artifact for 4. It's a legendary artifact. It has indestructible, and when the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until end of turn. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. And then, of course, you can tap it to put a burden counter on it. Draw a card for each burden counter on. Now, the biggest downside to this card, by far the biggest, is that this card is sitting at $100. It is still sitting, despite the fact that Lord of the Rings has not was in print for like 4 years or something like that. The One Ring is still $100, and that is also with it being banned out of Modern, right? The other downside I would say to this this card, is that in Commander, it is rather ubiquitous, and game warping often ends with the game very much snowballing in the person's favor playing it. So beware if you do play it. I wouldn't recommend playing this in anything below bracket 4. You can play it in bracket 3 if you so choose, but it's just it still feels kind of rough at bracket 3. But the utility you get out of it is amazing. So it's $100, so if you've got a proxy friendly group, I would highly recommend proxying it if you feel like you need to run it in there. I have a few the One Rings. I put out of my 78 decks, I run the One Ring in 4 total decks, and then I have a couple in my legacy deck that I 12 post. But there you go. That is the One Ring. Next, we have one of my favorite ones on the list from this week. We have United Front. I think that this card is extremely underrated. It came out with the Avatar set, is a mythic rare. It is X in double white. You create X 1/1 white ally creature tokens, and then you put a counter on each creature you control. This card is coming in at $2.70, so exceedingly affordable. And if you have a token strategy, a lot of times, if you're not playing things like Cathar's Crusade, etc., it's hard to get a lot of them beefed up. If you are playing Cathar's Crusade, you can always have this in there as redundancy. And just being able to pump up all of your creatures is very strong. If you already have creatures in there that are bigger, this can act as an overrun effect. If you already have stuff, this can put in a bunch of 2/2 blockers. Overall, I just think that this card has a lot of utility. I have been playing it in a couple of my decks. I play it in my Risk the Awakened deck. Or Risk the Redeemed, sorry, not Awake. Got it confused. Risk the Redeemed, and it's been very strong in that deck. Very good. Helps create a little bit more survivability in case things ping for 1 in your tokens deck. Overall, very fun card. Again, I think this one's highly under. I think that this has a very high ceiling. it also has a low floor, right? If you can only afford to cast it for like 2, you still get to put a 1/1 counter on all your stuff. So still, yeah, I would say middle floor. Then we had Shared Animosity. It is an enchantment for 2 generic and 1 red, and whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. This is great for your typal creature decks, right? This is a goblins deck card if I've ever seen one, or elementals. Heck, if you're running Boros soldiers, you got soldiers in there. As somebody mentioned in the short in the comments, this is also a great shapeshifter changeling typal card to put in there because they're all types, right? So if you have a whole bunch of shapeshifters, you put them in there, they'll always synergize with each other. You don't have to worry about everything being a soldier, everything being a goblin, everything being an elemental. But pretty fun card. This is also coming in at only $3.64. So again, a very affordable card for you to try out. I play it in 1 total deck because I don't have very many. I don't have very many typal decks, right? Like I just don't. Other than my dinosaur deck, but I don't have this in the dinosaur deck because the dinosaur decks already do what the dinosaur deck needs to do. But if you're looking for low to the ground power where you're going to dump out a whole bunch of things in a single creature type, this is the card for you. Absolutely. Go ahead, pick this up, try it out. Then we have ourselves The Legend of Yang Chen. The Legend of Yang Chen is coming in at $4.53. So again, still really affordable. It is 3 generic and double white, so this is really good for all your white decks. And it's a saga, and its first chapters, starting with you, each player chooses up to 1 permanent with mana value 3 or greater from among permanents your opponent's controls, and then exile those permanents. So you're making everyone at the table choose permanents that you're well, not making, because it is up to so they can choose to band together against you, but you could potentially be sowing chaos by getting all of your a bunch of your opponent's stuff exiled. And then chapter 2 is you may have target opponent draw 3 cards. If you do, draw 3 cards. Secret Rendezvous. And then so cards are good. You give it to the opponent who's the weakest. And then of course chapter 3 is exile it. And then it returns to the battlefield as Avatar Yang Chen, who is a 4/5 with flying, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, airbend up to 1 other target non-land permanent. I really see this being in a control deck, like a heavy control deck, right? So where you're playing a bunch of white removal, like Stroke of Midnight, Generous Gift, Swords to Plowshares, like all of those removal spells, you play a couple of them in a turn, you airbend somebody's permanent. You can also use this for your own sort of blink deck, right? Where you're playing Ephemerate, Cloud Shift, etc. And then you get to airbend another one of your things and bring it back into play. I actually play Avatar Yang Chen in my Monkeyatsu deck, where my goal is to airbend everything out, cheapen the cost to airbend so that way I can get ETB triggers and just do a bunch of fun things that way. And again, like I said, $4.53 isn't bad for a card that has this much utility to it. Then, we had Friday's card, the classic Doomblade. I'm not going to spend too much time here on Doomblade. Doomblade is Doomblade, right? Destroy target non-black creature for 2. It's an instant. It is a solid removal spell. Even in the year of our Lord 2026, it is still very strong. Yeah, there are better, but if you are going heavy removal package, this is an absolute include. Sure, it doesn't hit black creatures. However, it is still really good. And remember, friends, the old adage "dies to Doomblade" being used as a staple of judging how well a creature is. And this is coming in at 25 cents. A quarter gets you this card. So if you're looking for cheap removal, you can't afford some of the Deadly Rollicks and things like that are much more expensive. Throw in a Doomblade. It'll do well for you and do a lot of legwork a lot of times for your spot removal slots. And then today's card, was Flaming Fist. It is a legendary enchantment background for 2 generic and 1 white. It's coming in at 23 cents. So again, hyper affordable here, friends. And backgrounds, you can partner them with any card that says choose a background. You can also just play this in the 99 uh, as a utility enchantment. And that's what I do with it most of the time. And it says commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks, it gains double strike until turn. I put this card in so many of my combat focused decks where I want my commander to just beat face. Everything from my white-green terrible Frodo Baggins deck to my Jinsakai deck, just adding that double strike in there just really adds up that commander damage very fast. This helps actually give aggro a chance to kill people faster. I play it in a couple of my Naya decks. I play it in my Boros decks. Like I said, anything where my commander wants to swing in, this card goes into it. It has always done really well for me. The downside of it is if your commander dies, if you can't afford to play your commander again because it's been removed 457 times, it's a dead card. That is the drawback to it. Is there are times where this will be a dead card, but in the times where it is working, my goodness, does it do a lot of work by just supporting. And not every card has to have a hyper amount of utility on it. Not every card has to say, draw 18 cards, exile this, generate 2 Shaherazads and a Black Lotus and put them into play. You know, like not everything has to do that. Support cards that just synergize are very okay by themselves. But yeah, so that was our first of our Card of the Day weekly roundup. Let me know if you like this series, if you want to see more of this series. Again, if you think that I'm doing a good job, and only if you think that I'm doing a good job, feel free to subscribe. Also, let me know how you've been enjoying my non-deck tech related content. I've been trying to branch out more. I'm trying this series and like a budget option series as something more stable to do, along with my history cards as commanders, and then you know, whatever I just feel like talking about from the heart. So as always, I'm Weston with the Hidden Gibbon. You know what? I hope you all have a wonderful day.